All right. Good morning. Welcome and hello, wherever you are in the world. And I will, as is my wont, dive right into the stream without any further ado. Let's switch over here. There we go. I just need to lower the volume a little bit in my headphones, and I think I'm ready to go. Okay. Here we go. So yesterday we worked on the interpreter. We crafted some interpreting code. We got methods working. We can call methods and define methods and call them. Right? That's what we did. Methods, declarations, and references. We did. Oops. And next week, I guess we're going to dig into this, which is this. Put that out. Okay, but today we're going to switch back to our editor port. So we're porting this editor from C, a very simple editor called Kilo, which somebody wrote a C tutorial for, and I am in the middle of porting it to Rust. And I think we just finished this snap cursor, right? Yeah, step 77 snap cursor. Yeah, and I think that's up here on... Where's my repo? Here it is. Yep, there it is. Okay. So I think we're ready to get going right away. So let's allow the user to press the left arrow at the beginning of the line to move to the end of the previous line. All right, we can do that. If cy is greater than 0, cy minus minus cx is erow cy size. Okay. And that's in our editor code. So this is what I did up here. If we're on some row, okay, we're in the left arrow key. So we have a saturating sub. So we're going to change the saturating sub to, and this is saying if cursor is not equal to 0, then we're going to subtract 1. So now we don't have to do a saturating sub because we know it's not 0 and it's a U16, right? Does that work? Yeah, that works. So it's a U16, so it can't be negative, so we can always subtract 1 from it. Else, if self cursor y is greater than 0, which means we're on line 1 or more, we're going to go up 1, self cursor y minus equals 1, and we're going to move x to the end of the new current line. That's going to change row idx by 1, which means we want to make this mutable. Right, because I think where else do we use that? We use it here. Oh, this is the only place we use it. Then let's do it here. Yeah, so this is the if row end business. All right, so we don't have to do anything fancy there. We can just subtract 1 from y, and then. So I'm just worried that this might break something in the future if we have row index pointing to a different row, and then when we come out of the match and we use it down here, then there'll be a problem. Which is why I think I should definitely move this in here, and then maybe we can refactor it to not have to go through this mess. We can just say if self cursor y as u size is greater than or equal to self rows len, then idx, let idx equal self cursor y as u size, and then we can check that. All right, that simplifies that business. And then self cursor y minus 1, and then self cursor x is equal to self rows of self cursor y as usize dot len. And that goes away. And that fails, of course. Oh, self. I keep missing the R in cursor. Doesn't like this. Expected U16. Oh, as U16. There we go. So now if I run it, I've been running it over here. Oh, Control Q. There we go. I've been running it over here. I can go down and I can go left and go to the end of the previous line. Now will it jump to scroll? Let's see. It does. And then I should be able to go back and scroll forward. And when I get to the beginning of the line, it shouldn't do anything and it shouldn't crash. Okay. So that's working. You know what I should do is set up a watch. Let me set up a watch over here. So the reason I have this editor down here so I can click on it easily. Let me put it over here. So when this is in front, I can get to it. And then this, let's make this nice and wide. CD, documents, dev, kilo, cargo, watch. I guess just cargo build. Yeah, and then if I write to it, it should automatically rebuild. Yeah, okay. Oops. All right. That's good, and then we'll see the errors and warnings here, as well as in the quick fix list. But it'll be built then, so I can just run it over here. All right. So that's that. So now we can move left to start a line. Git add source, git commit. Sometimes I just do those one at a time. Sometimes I do in batches, but this seems like a fairly complete moving left at start of line. A fairly complete step in and of itself. It doesn't depend on all the other ones. We make sure they aren't on the very first line before we move them up a line. Yep. And then similarly, allow the user to press right at the end of the line to go to the beginning of the next line. All right, so for row, okay, so I just changed this all up. So we have to think about this now. If row, which means this line here. Oh, wait. If cursor Y is greater than the number of rows, it should be less than. Huh, how did the right work then? Maybe I didn't try moving right. Yeah, I can't move right. I can move left though. Okay, yeah, I just messed that up, but this fixes that. That's this here. If there's a row. See, I was checking row both times, so we don't have to do that because we have one if to handle both cases. We get the index of the row. We can. It says if self rows index len is greater than self cursor x. In other words, I don't like it that way. Let's do it the same way they've got it here. Self cursor x is less than this. All right, so that's this line here. Else, if self, oh, then it is. If it's not less than that, it's going to be equal to that. So we don't need to check. We can just increment y. Oh, except we don't want to just increment y. That would be bad, right? And we need to check to make sure that y doesn't go too far. Here we check to make sure that row is is not greater than number of rows before we try to grab the row. But it looks like we can just hit the right arrow and keep incrementing. I think we need to add this check in here. And maybe they're going to add it in a future step, but I'm going to add it now just in case. Cursor Y as usize is less than. Nobody says, is there a reason for putting as usize almost everywhere? Yeah, unfortunately. So self-rows len is the length of that vector, and that, let's see if I can actually jump to it. I guess not. And this returns a usize. Self cursor Y is a U16. So I have to either cast this as a U16 or this as a usize. And I don't know. I could make them all U sizes, right? Right now, like self cursor Y, if we look here, is a U16. And the reason it's a U16 is because cross term. Yeah, so that you're asking why don't I just make these two U sizes? And the reason I don't make these U sizes is because screen uses them, and what screen is the thing that's using the cross term. So we're using this cross term business, and all of this takes U16s. So it's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of things. I could either make everything a U size and then cast it whenever I'd have to put as U16 everywhere in here, right? So it's unfortunate that there might be a better way to go about doing this. I don't know. Self rows len. See, here I'm doing self cursor Y is less than self rows len is U16. So maybe I should be consistent. Nobody says maybe add a helpers to your class struct to get Y as usize for readability. Yeah, that's not a terrible idea. Oops. Self cursor. How would that work in practice? I guess I could say something like, just as an example, I could say if self cursor above self rows len, right? Oops. Right? And then this would check, and this would take the U size and then cast it. That's not a terrible idea. And then the same thing here with X and Y, we could say left of and right of. That's not a terrible idea. And that would be in the position struct, which is just in here. Like this, okay, pull position. If pub fun above self row U size bool self dot Y is less than is less than row as U16, right? We could do that. I forgot this thing here. And so I could just say this cursor above. Oops, I typed C again. There. Is that more readable? I don't know if that's more readable. Left of self call usize bool self x is less than call as u16, and then go back here and change this here. Cursor is left of what about this thing then? We still need to index, so I guess we could just call row, right? We can make this a row. Right, and just add that here. Self x, self y as usize. Right, and then we can just say, yeah, that works. That was a nice bit of inspiration there. Nobody 000 by 1. I don't know how to say your name. Nobody. I don't want to just call you Nobody. Yeah. So as I go through this, maybe I'll add these things in here. What is this? Self cursor y is row size. So we just say self cursor row. What would be good here? I don't know. I'll have to think about this one because this one I still have to do. And this. Oh, okay. So this would be interesting. How to interact the rows with the cursor. That's the same problem as this one up here. All right. Well, anyway, we should have the ability now, right, to run this and move right and left. We can move right, and once we get to the end of the line, we should be able to type right again and get to the beginning of the next line. Yeah. So we can just kind of scroll our... Oh, that was weird. I thought it would go to the beginning of the next line, but it's not. Oh, because I forgot this bit here. Self cursor dot y equals 0. Okay. One more try. So this should go like this. Ooh. Ah, that was dumb. Okay, so let's try this now. There we go. Now it's doing what you expect, right? And it's even scrolling down. Perfect. All right, so that was step 79. Source, git commit -m, step 79. Moving right at end of line. All right. What else are we doing here? Here we have to make sure they're not at the end of the file before moving down the line. If you try opening makefile using kill makefile, you'll notice that the tab character on the second line of the makefile ends up a width of 8 columns or so. I don't actually have any files with tabs in. Should I make a tabbed file? Tabs.txt. Build, colon. Oh, see, now I typed a tab, but it's actually put in spaces. Oh, no, put a tab in. It's just for, this is a tabbed over thing. Line. Okay, so if I cat this, yeah, so now it's doing a proper tab right there. Okay, so now if I edit it, Control Q, and just call it tabs. It's rendering a tab. It's just putting the cursor in the middle of the tab. What does it say? The length of a tab is up to the terminal being used and its settings. We want to we want to know the length of each tab, and we want control over how to render tabs. So we're going to add a second string to the erow struct called render, which will contain the actual characters to draw on the screen for that row of text. We'll only use render for tabs for now, but in the future it could be used to render non-printable control characters as a caret, followed by another character, such as Control A for Control A, You may also notice the tab character in the make file is displayed by the terminal. It doesn't erase any characters on the screen within that tab. All the tab does is move the cursor forward to the next tab stop, similar to a carriage return or new line. This is another reason we want to render the tabs as multiple spaces, since spaces erase whatever character was there before. So let's start by adding render and rsize, which contains the size of the contents of render, to the eRow struct. Okay, before I do that, I need to understand how it's going to be used. So next, let's make editor update row function that uses char's string of an eRow to fill in the contents of the render string. We'll copy each character from chars to render. We won't worry about how to render tabs just yet. Oh, I see. So we're gonna loop over all the characters in the line and determine how to render them. Okay. But why do we need to do it inside the row struct? Can't we do it while we're rendering? So yeah, so this is just copying everything over, putting a null at the end, and then setting the size. And then what we append editor append row. So where is that? I don't have append row. Right, I just have my screen code called draw rows. Yeah, you can get rid of cursor position. All right, so I think the bottom line here is that this is this code here, right? To render. So where's our rows? The rows are here. They get passed in as an array of strings. All right, so it's time to refactor this now. Excuse me. I should have muted. I apologize. Pub struct row. And we're going to have a, what are they called here? Just row, chars, which is a string, and then a render, which is a string. And then in our editor, instead of having an array of strings, or vec of strings, we're going to have vec of row. And row comes from screen, so it's already there. So now that means all this needs to be refactored. Instead of being a vec from data, let v equals vec from data. Oh. We're going to make an array of rows, a vector of rows here. And each row has to have the chars. For row in V. So we're going to say let rows mut rows equals vec new. And this will be the rows thing. We're going to just say rows dot push row dot new row, and we'll have a new here. Pub impl row pub fun new row string self row clone, I guess. And then everywhere we use rows, we're going to have to deal with this Self-draw rows, okay. So this will be a rows. Where else do we use it? That's just the length. That's fine. That's all we care about is the length. Oh. Rows of index. So maybe when we want to say length of index. And that means we need a len function here. Pub fun new. Oh, len self idx usize. And that returns a usize, and it's just going to be self dot chars of. Oh wait! I get this wrong here. It's self chars. It doesn't take an idx. Okay. Self rows len still works. Self rows len still works. Self rows len still works. And that len still works. Okay, so this refactor might be complete on that side. What about on this side? So in our rows, get rows.len. Rows is empty. Row file row len, that still works. Okay, so here's the first issue. This is where we're going to actually print it out. So we'll do chars start to end. I think that's it. Does that refactor do the trick? Nope. What'd I miss out? Row doesn't have this. Oh, chars. Row clone and then render string new. Doesn't like this. Oh, right, because I need to say rows. And the warning is we're not using render anywhere. Okay, so here's where we're going to actually use render. This says edit or append row, so whenever we're pushing a new row onto the array, and that's right here, right? We're going to calculate the render for it. So this is probably going to have to get refactored at some point. So this is basically right here is where we calculate the render. So let's calculate the render. Let mut render equals vec new. For c in row.chars.iter, or is chars already in iter? It's already in iter. Oh, well, we'll get there in a second. So now we'll say render dot push c, and that's all we're doing here is just adding it to the render. And then render is just render like this. Oh, and then we have to collect it. Oh, so let's. I do want to do this for loop, but right now it's just a clone of the chars. And I think the next section is going to have us handle the tabs, right? So I want the for loop. So I should say let render equal row dot chars dot collect. Oh, chars like this. I collect vec. Oh, can I do that? I can. And the warning is we're still not using render, and that's what we're going to do down here. So we're going to only output the render of the thing. There we go. Okay, so I think that's this step. And this is kind of a step without a visible impact, so I'm not going to check this in. Yes, compiles, but with no observable effects. Next, let's make an editor update row function that uses the chars string of an eRow to fill in the contents of the render string. We'll copy each character from chars to render. We won't worry about how to render tabs yet. Right, so that's what I did up here, I basically filled this in or copied this over using this guy. But that's just the beginning of it, right? So now we're going to have to, whenever we update a row, we're going to update the chars in the row separately. So in the editor, I'll update the chars, and then when it calls update row, it needs to recreate the render, which means this needs to have interior mutable. Oh, they both actually need to be mutable, right? How else are we going to update the rows? Yeah, so all of these have to be mutable, and then we should be able to mutate right. So I've already kind of done this with the create, and so editor append row just gets it from the file, and then just does this. So I kind of already did this, but we're going to have to figure out when the user modifies code. Right, so now we're going to update using the render. That's fine. So we don't need to do anything there. Next, now the text view is displaying the characters in render. Let's add code to editor to update row that renders tabs as multiple space characters. Okay, so that's where we go here. And I don't know that you can do this anymore because we need to, you know, I can't map X, match X if it's a tab, right? Then how do I emit and spaces based on how many to emit, or anything else, emit X, right? That's what we're doing here. And then collect string. Oh, the dot goes to the beginning. I don't know if there's a way to do that because we're not keeping track of how many characters over we are. And how do you create a generator which can generate any number of characters? So I think we have to just do it the simple way. Let render equals mut render string new, and then oops, for C in row.chars, and now we'd match C, and if it's a tab, we're going to do what? Oh, we're looking at how many, yeah, so we need to enumerate. Oh, we can't do it that way. We do have to keep track of what. Well, IDX of this is not equal to, oh yeah, so IDX keeps track of what entry we're in. Let mut IDX equals 0. Okay. So while IDX mod 8 is not equal to 0, that means that if it starts out at 0, it's gonna, oh, I was gonna say it starts out at 0, it's not gonna have any, but there is this one line here which guarantees at least one space for every tab. So we say this render.push space, and then IDX plus equals 1. While that's not equal to that, we're going to do the same thing. And then for every other character, we're going to just say render.push of X, and then IDX plus equals 1. That's the match, that's the this, and then that gives us the render. And let's see if that works. And this should probably be extracted to a separate function because we're going to need to do this every time the row updates. Right, okay, so now let's see. we are outputting this as a tab. I think this is something that the cross term is doing. But this should still work, right? We're still rendering, we're printing out the render without tabs now. Okay, so let's see. Let's run this. And it kind of worked. Let's put a tab in the middle of something here, right? If I say insert Control V, Control Tab, there's a tab, and then I should be able to say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oops. And then do it a few times just to get the length. So this actually should be over on 8, and then we'll see where the next one is. Yeah, so this is on 8, and then this tabbed over to 24, which is correct. Okay, hopefully I muted that time. I had to cough. All right, so I think that's working, right? I think we're tabbing correctly, and hopefully this is the render thing with the spaces in here instead of the instead of relying on cross terms tabs. Okay, so that's that. First we have to loop through the chars of the row and count the tabs in order to know how much memory to allocate for render. I don't have to worry about that. The maximum number of characters needed for each tab is 8. Row size already counts 1 for each tab, so we multiply the number of tabs by 7 and then add that to row size. So right, so we have to scan this way we have to scan the string twice, but here, because we have to allocate the memory for it first. I mean, you could just allocate 7 times the length of the string, and that should, but then you're allocating more memory than you need. Which, you know, for a single line of text isn't that bad. That might be more performant. Because you have to do this for every time you update the row. Anyway, it's always a trade-off between memory usage and CPU usage, right? Oh, I just noticed the spammer in chat. Let me take care of the spammer in chat. We're going to block and report. So there we go. Apologies for that. Okay, so after allocating memory, we modify the for loop to check whether the current character is a tab. If it is, we append 1 space because each tab must advance the cursor forward at least 1 column. And then append spaces until we get to a tab stop, which is a column that is divisible by 8. At this point, we should probably make the length of a tab stop a constant. Okay. You don't want to make it configurable? Const tab usize equals 8. What do we call it? Kilo tab stop. Kilo tab stop. So look for that. Kilo tab stop. And that's still built. Good. The reason they made it a constant is because they have it in 2 spots. We have it in 1 spot, but we'll see. All right, tabs in the cursor. Cursor doesn't currently interact with tabs very well. When we position the cursor on the screen, we're still assuming each character takes up only 1 column on the screen. Oh, that's a good point. Let's see. So I can go over. No. Oh, yeah. It's saying this is a tabbed, but I think the actual text says this is a tabbed line. Right? This is a tabbed over line. Yeah, so we're cutting off this part of it. Yeah, okay, we need to fix that. Oh, so that means down here when we calculate the end, we need to calculate the end based on not the file road len, but we need off the file render len. Right? And then we'll need to add a render len. That should allow us at least to render it properly. Yeah, now it says this is a tabbed over line, but it'll still wrap here. Yeah, because we haven't fixed the move cursor thing. To fix this, let's introduce a new horizontal coordinate variable erx, while ecx is an index into the chars field of an erow. Erx variable will be an index into the render field. If there are no tabs on the current line, then erx will be the same as ecx. If there are tabs, erx will be greater than ecx by however many extra spaces those tabs take up when rendered. All right, so this is where we're actually running into issues between, more issues between our editor and our screen output stuff. Right, we have Rx now, which is a different so we have to initialize that to 0. Right, and then in our editor scroll, what are we checking here? So we're not checking the cursor X anymore, we're checking the render X. So now change ECX, ERX in editor refresh screen. So this is in scroll. I'm just wondering how do we setting render X? Where does that get set? Because right now it's just 0. All right, well, let's try this. All right, that changes that, and that changes that. This changes here as well, and here as well. Diablo, hello. Okay, now change ECX to ERX in editor refresh screen. Here's refresh screen. So how are we handling this then? Because refresh screen calls draw rows. Do we have to pass in the render cursor instead? This is bad. That this is growing and growing every time we extend things. The linkage between the screen code and the editor code is too tight, I think. They're too tightly coupled. Render X usize. And then we'll take in render X. Oh, yeah, now we have this issue here. Maybe make this a U16 to match the others. And then this needs to be U16 over here. And now we're just not using render X yet. So now this is saying we're going to move the cursor to the render X minus the call offset. And that was, oh, where do we end up putting the cursor? Because there has to be some code after we finish drawing the rows. Here it is. Oh, see, we don't need to actually pass in render X, right? Because we only need to position the cursor, and we have that here. And move to. Oh, we have to pass it into move to, which is on the screen side of things. So should I just make it a position then? flip things around. Just have renderx as the render position as the position, and then have the x coordinate be in the chars. But that might make things a little crazy. Render x, use 16, and then render x here. Self render x. Now we're passing in the whole cursor, but we only need the row. Let's get rid of it here because we're not using it there. Okay. Now change ECX, ERX in editor refresh screen. Okay, we did that. All that's left to do is calculate the value of ERX properly in editor scroll. Let's create an editor row CX to RX function that converts a chars index into a render index. We'll need to loop through all the characters to the left of CX and figure out how many spaces each tab takes up. Alright, so does this belong in screen? Or is this a function? Oh, this is a function on the row. Right? Yeah. So we can just say pub fun CX to RX self. So what do we have here? Let mod RX equals 0. Let mod. Oh. Do we need J? We just need the character itself. So we can say for C in self chars. If C is equal to a tab, right, then RX plus equals kilo tab stop minus 1 minus RX mod kilo tab stop. And then we're going to increment RX here. RX plus equals 1. And then we're going to return RX there. Okay, so that builds. And then for each character, if it's a tab, we use RX mod kilo tab stop to find out how many columns we are to the right of the last tab stop, and then subtract that from kilo tab stop minus 1 to find out how many columns we are to the left of the next tab stop. We add that amount to RX to get just to the left of the next tab stop, and then the unconditional RX plus plus statement gets us right on the next tab stop. Notice how this works even if we're currently on a tab stop. Let's call editor row CX to RX at the top of editor scroll to finally set ERX to its proper value. Okay. Just reading this over here. In scroll, the first thing we'll do is set self render x equals 0. We don't have to do that in Rust. We can say if self cursor.y, a cursor above self rows.len. Then we're going to call self, oh no, self render, no, self dot rows of, oh, oddx, thank you for the follow. We'll call self rows, and we're going to get the current row, which is self cursor y, right? Yeah. Dot CX to RX. Else it's going to be 0. And I think I need to usize this, right? This is the place I still need to usize it. All right, so that sets render x, and then we deal with the row and column offset that way. It doesn't like that. Why doesn't it like that? Expected U16 found U size. Oh, right. renderx has to be U16. So maybe I should return it as a U16, right? Since that's how it's going to be used. We'll follow the philosophy of nobody double by one. Okay, so that works there. I still want to. I still want something here that allows us to do this without having to cast all the U sizes around. Right, like this here and stuff like that. Oh, this we can convert to the below thing. Let row len equals if self cursor above self rows len. Then we're going to grab this. Else that. Oh, I keep typing above. I can't type above. Okay. So that's the editor scroll. You should now be able to confirm that the cursor moves properly within lines that contain tabs. All right, let's find out. Control Q, toggle on tabs. Oh, it does not. It does not. So my CX to RX is not working. Oh, CX to RX isn't working because I didn't pass it in the current CX. Duh. So that means, let's fix that. Let's call it CX. Let's keep it consistent with the tutorial. And then I want to, what was it, take CX? Can I do that? No. Expected U size found as U size. Okay, and now we just have to pass that in. Self cursor X. There. Okay, so now let's try it. Right. Okay, I can move around here. If I go down, oh, it jumps there. Interesting. So it is skipping over the tabs here. And if I go forward, it goes here. Interesting. And then it goes to the tab. That's opposite to the way it works in Vim, right? So in Vim, let's pull it up here. Right? If I say down, it jumps to the character before, right? And if I go to the A and I say go to right, then it jumps there. So this is, it's just doing it the opposite way. So it's just something, okay, well, we have to get used to it being opposite. Right? Because if I go to the beginning of the line here, it goes to the T. If I go to the beginning of the line here, it goes there. All right, it's just a different way of handling it. That's fine. That's not a bug. So I think that's that, right? You should now be able to confirm that the cursor moves properly within lines that contain tabs. Okay, so this section, this whole section is called tabs in the cursor. So it's step 85 through 89. Okay. Git add source, git commit -m, tabs and the cursor, steps 85 to 89. Oops, 85. Oh, we don't need to do this. Which means that I want to call this chars, just to keep things simple. Yeah, that's cleaner. Okay, so now good. All right, that's that. Scrolling with page up and page down. Now that we have scrolling, let's make page up and page down keys scroll up or down an entire page. All right, so we have the page up and page down. So it's just this code here. So in our editor, we have home and end working. Oh, we do have page up and page down already. We did it before. What's the difference here? To scroll up or down a page, we position the cursor either at the top or the bottom of the screen and then simulate an entire screen's worth of up or down key presses. Delegating to editor move cursor takes care of all the bounds checking and cursor fixing that needs to be done when moving the cursor. Oh, I see. We already did this part here. Right, now they're saying if to do the whole page, oops, we just start, if we're doing a page up, we set Y to the row offset. If we're doing page down, we do the row offset plus the number of rows minus 1, and then clamp it to the number of rows, and then we can do that. Screen rows times. Okay. So I think we need bounds up front here. So we're going to say if code is equal to page key code page up. I guess we rematch it. Then we're going to set self cursor dot y is equal to self, I forget what we call it. This is just row off. Otherwise, if it's key code page down, is Rust smart enough to know that you can only come in here if code is one of these two? Or is it going to tell me that there's unmatched things to handle? Then self cursor y is equal to self row offset. This is self cursor y is equal to, oh, we check after if it's greater than num rows. So it would be self row off plus bounds dot y minus 1 min of self rows length. Right? And then times is equal to screen rows, and we just move the cursor that many times. Okay. All right, now let's see if Rust is smart enough. Nope. Oh, see, yeah, this is U size, and we're expecting U16 as U16. So can't always get away with it. Yeah, so all these patterns are not matched, non-exhaustive patterns. But we can only come in here if we're in page up or page down. So this will be a panic. Rust compiler broke. How's that? All right, so this should give us a scroll up or down. Scroll up or down a page, repositions a cursor, delegating editor. Right, okay, so let's see, let's edit a large file. Source screen. And now I should be able to go down a page at a time, up a page at a time. Yeah, look at that. Okay. So that's working. That was step 90. Full page up and down for scrolling. Okay, move to the end of the line with end. Now let's have the end key move the cursor to the end of the current line. The home key already moves the cursor to the beginning of the line since we made ECX relative to the file instead of relative to the screen. So we already have code in here for the end key. Oh, we're doing self-screen bounds X. Oh, okay. So that means that if I pull this up and use the end key, oh no, it moves it to the end of the line. I mean, it's doing it. It's just not, it's just basing it off of the width of the screen rather than the length of the row. So we can just say if self cursor above self, wow, I cannot do that, self rows len, then we're going to set cursor to the length of that row. So self rows of self cursor dot y as usize. Toggle 2e flashbacks. Yeah, I mean, he's using cross term, right? All right, Diablo, I think he's using cross term also. And I've been kind of just lurking in his stream, watching him do his thing. And that's kind of what inspired me to work on something cross-term related, because I'd never used cross-term before. And I thought, oh, this would be a fun way to learn how to do it. And it's just the len, right? Or is it going to be len as U16? Yeah, we just can't get away from... that. So this is begging, this construct here is begging for a helper function, because I use this all over the place. Of course, I can't search for that because it's got the open bracket there. If I put a backslash in front of that one, or backslash in front of that one, there's 3 places where we use it. It's showing me here how many places. Diablo says, I want to use his 2e if he ever gets it done. Is it up on... Does he have a version on crates as a placeholder? Oh, that wasn't the right way to search for it, right? I can't search for things written by Toggle. Browse all crates. There's only 84,000 to look through. So I can look through them one at a time. I don't know if he's gotten it up, if he claimed the name for his crate yet. All right, so yeah, I want to write a helper function for this. So fn current row. And it just takes a... So what do I do most of the time? Is I'm just looking for the length here. I'm looking for the length here. Here I'm looking for the actual row, current row len. So let's do this just for at least those 2 places, and we'll say self.rows of self.cursor.y as usize.len as U16. Right? That works. And then here we'll just say self current row len. And the same thing here. I wonder if we need to actually do it that way because, oops, didn't mean to do that. we can check it here and just return 0. I don't want to do that because I don't want to modify X, right? We don't want to modify X. I was thinking self current row len could check whether it's above the current number of rows and return 0 if it isn't above. But then that would set, I guess that wouldn't be so bad to set CX to 0. Right, this is what I'm thinking, is we could do this, else 0. Right? And that way we wouldn't have to check above. We could just set it. Right? And then here, row len is just self current row len. I think that simplifies the code nicely. It doesn't like this because I forgot to put a comma. Here. Cheese's potato queue. Will it eventually raise an index out of bound? It shouldn't as long as I check here before I index into it, right? Otherwise return 0 here. It shouldn't. Let me go back here. This is the only other place where I look, and I am checking. But you raise a good point that there should probably be an accessor function for this. So we can just say self render x is equal to, I want to say, you know, get current row, and that could return an option of the row. And then we can call that based on whether or not we got a none or a sum. That would give it kind of the same logic here, but it would prevent us having to do this mess. Oh, thank you, Jesus, for the follow. I followed Jesus, and Jesus follows me. No, I don't know where that was going. Okay, so King asks, "Can you help me with an algo, please?" I don't think I can. Whatever Wikipedia is going to do is going to do. Oh, a leak code problem. Ah, you're trying to distract me, huh? You don't want me to get my editor finished. Is that your? And I'm bad at leak code stuff. So can I look at it without creating an account? Explore. Get started. Is there a search function? I don't see a search function. That's kind of lame, right? Okay, if LeetCode doesn't have a way to search for the name of the thing, I'm not going to click a random link. I'm not going to click a random link, sorry. No, I don't see the search. Oh, is it under problems? Let's see, where's problems? I don't see problems. Oh, up here, these problems. Gotcha. And what's the problem number? Oh, here we go, search questions. Letter combinations of a phone number. Here it is, okay. Given a string containing digits from 2 to 9 inclusive, return all possible letter combinations that the number could represent. Return the answer in any order. Oh, okay. I mean, that's not too bad, right? I mean, you're just doing a permutation of each one of the options. To return the answer in any order, so it doesn't even care, you know, how you permute it. Right? So you just, you get in the digits, you do a permutation on the digits, and then for each of the permutations, you return each one of the possible characters. You got it working up to 2 numbers. I'm not going to do it on stream because it's I'm want to get my editor working or done. But I mean, there is a permutations permutations in the editor tools package, right? And then you can just generate permutations on the number string, right? That was just here. So 5 to 8 gives you the permutations. You say permutations of 2, but in this case, it's just going to be the permutations of however many digits they gave you, and then you get all the permutations. God, whoa, aren't there tons of YouTube channels dedicated to showing LeetCode solutions? Yeah, probably, but I think King is looking for hints rather than the full solution. So that's the best hint I can give you, is that you get all the permutations, and then for each permutation, you run through all the combinations of characters. That would be my approach. I don't know if that's the best approach, but kind of put me on the spot, dude. Okay. Oh, we're going to do status bar next. Okay. So switching back to the editor. Actually, let's commit these changes. Git commit -m step 91. And what was this called? End key. Okay. Jesus says if there aren't any time complexity constraints, then there are so many ways to do it. True. But I believe LeetCode does have, like, oh, this ran too long. This ran for more than 1/10 of a second or something. Solution's right there, dude. You just click on that. Subscribe. It'll give you the answer. Wow, there's 1,000 people talking about this. Easiest approach is Java recursion. Here's the answer. So if you want the answer, look at your screen. That's cheating. Anyway. Binary search has hits for the same problem. Oh, no, I've never used binary search. Is it a... Oh, okay. Interesting. Thank you for that, Godwall. I'm going to take a look at this. This looks like a dark-themed LeetCode. Okay, status bar. Sorry, we're getting distracted. Last thing we'll need before finally getting to text editing is a status bar. This will show useful information such as the file name, how many lines are in the file, and what line you're currently on. Later we'll add a marker that tells you whether the file has been modified since it was last saved, and we'll also display the file type when we implement syntax highlighting. Oh, we're going to get syntax highlighting in this editor. That's pretty cool. Are we going to integrate with an LSP or something? That would be even cooler. First, we'll simply make room for a one-line status bar at the bottom of the screen. Okay, so we're going to delete this. And delete this. How does that work? How do we delete a curly brace? Oh, we're deleting the if curly brace. Okay. Draw rows. So at the end of the screen, if y is less than or equals screen rows -1 and append rn. Oh, this was that business. Yeah, so we don't have to worry about this part because I already handle it in cross-term. And then we're just going to say the screen rows is -=1. So we're just going to say the bounds of this thing. When we create a new screen, and I'm beginning to think row should be a separate, row should be in its own. Let's do that while I'm thinking about it. Right, grab all this stuff and put it here, and then the tab stop can also go in there. I don't know, should the const go at the top or... Oh. Sure, and then here we're going to say use kilo ed star. That was for that, but I could say use create row star for that. Okay, and then what else are we going to need for here? Hopefully nothing else. Okay, and then in main, Oops. Why did I do that? Main. And add a mod row. And that fails to build because, oh, we need it here too. And what's the other two errors? It's an editor, doesn't have row, and screen render. Oh, it's a private field. Not for long. I probably have to make them both pub, right? Eventually, when we modify this chars inside the... I could also make an accessor function that says render from start to end, and it just returns that bit of the string. But for now, this works. Okay. Screen rows -1. So when we get the screen, we actually want to say rows -1. Simple enough. We decrement eScreen rows so editor draw rows doesn't try to draw out the lines at the bottom of the screen. So if I do this now, if I cargo run, yeah, see now the last line is blank. And if I scroll down, it should start scrolling as soon as I hit the second to last line. And if I go right, this should scroll when I hit right. And it does. Okay. So all of that is working. Notice how with these two changes, our text viewer works just fine, including scrolling and cursor movement. And the last line where our status bar will be is left alone by the rest of the display code. To make the status bar stand out, we're going to display it with inverted colors, black text on a white background. So that's the escape sequence, but cross term is going to have its own way of doing it, right? Why don't I have a cross term thing? I do. So the question is, how do we, in cross term, invert the colors when we print? Oh, maybe there's that style thing, right? Yeah, style. Is there an inverted style? We can set the foreground and background directly, but it would be nice to have an invert. Oh, underlined, no underlined. Can we get the current colors? And that way I could just reverse them. Returns the available color count. All right, well, we're going to do this then. Cross term, get current colors. I don't know if there's a way to query the terminal. King says, I had no idea about could backtracking be useful for that? So I learned backtracking a while ago when I was solving the 8 queens problem, where you try to put 8 queens on a chessboard, such that no queen can attack any other queen. And that's like a classic example of how to do backtracking. But I didn't think that the phone problem needs backtracking. But I haven't looked at the hits there. Hamana says the tutorial is already assuming a black background. That is true. But I'm not setting colors anywhere. So if I had a different background and different everything, it would still show up. But I guess I could just it's saying reset color, right? There's a reset color thing here, right? So it sets it back to default, whatever the default means. And so there's an ANSI sequence. Excuse me. There's an ANSI sequence to say reset colors to default. But it would be nice if we could say get the current colors and invert those. Yeah. Yeah, these are all setters, and this just sets the color. So we can just invert it, right? We can do that. We'll do set colors, white, black, white, no, black foreground and white background, and then print. And then we'll have to do a reset colors afterwards. Hamana says I can enforce it myself. Yeah, that's true. I could force it to be black background and then just have like maybe a settings file somewhere for the user to do it. All right, so we have draw status bar. That goes in here in screen. Pub fun draw status bar self. But we're gonna want like the cursor information and all that kind of jazz. So that's okay. Which we don't have when we're doing this. Right now we're just making it all white. So we can just say self standard out. I'm trying to think. Is there a way, like in Python or Perl, you can multiply? You could do that and just get that many spaces. Is there a way in Rust you can do that, or I have to do this business here? Oh, I guess I could just format one, right? That's simple enough. So let's set the colors inverted. Oops, that's the wrong one. I guess I want that as a reference. So we say self standard out, Q, style, set colors, new, black, and white. I'm going to have to import all these guys. Oops, I put the dot on the wrong spot. I'll keep doing that. Then Q, format. Maybe there's a padding method or something. Maybe. But this would be simple enough, right? If I can just say colon. Oh, I want to put the width in here. You can't do this, can you? And shove the width in there? Right? This and then self width. I don't think format takes that. Q style reset colors. Oh, and then this has to result. Right, and I have to import all these guys. Yeah, I can't do that. Style I don't have yet. Oh, I do. I have style right there. Oh, I have to import it with, let's see, style. We have print. Then we have set colors. And then where does colors come from? And then reset colors. Yeah, so this, I got to figure out, is there a way you can, because in C you can do that, right? You can say printf %* D, for example, and then give it a width here as a variable. And then the value you want to print, right? And the star gets picked up there. So does format have something similar? Rust format variable width. Maybe? How can I zero pad a number by a variable width? Oh, you can actually put the variable name in there. The format arguments also support ordinals, thus this also works, 0, 1. Okay. And you put the thing you want to print and then the width after it. Interesting. So what I want to print is a space, I guess, or nothing. Oh, it should be 0, 1, right? Oh, and I have that there. I left that there. Okay. Oh, no reset colors and style? Where did I see it then? We said color, singular. Oh, I don't need to do this if I've already got it, right? And then colors. Colors comes from where? It's also style. Okay. And then black and white, of course. Which are colors. So how do I do that? Just I guess I can do color like that and just pull it in this way. Right? Oh, this has to be a print. I forgot. Question mark, each one of these things. Expected use size found in U16 as use size. And then this doesn't like this. Oh, it has to be mutable. No. This has this. And why am I doing this, I guess? I'm doing that everywhere. Oh, just to simplify the output? Okay. Or simplify the function signature. Okay. There. 2 warnings. We're never calling draw status bar. Okay, now we're going to call draw status bar. That'll be the next thing, right? The M command select graphic rendition causes text printed after to be printed with various possible attributes. Oh, see, there is an inverted colors. So why doesn't crossterm have the invert colors? Let's look up invert. Diablo says, is that a PC fan? Oh, the sound? No, my laptop is not happy about streaming this and playing music and recording all at the same time. So it sorry, I don't know how to make the sound a little bit less annoying. Maybe there's some filter I can add to, yeah, laptop go whir. That's right. Maybe I can convince myself to buy a better or a standalone desktop that I could just stream from instead. If I do this, and yeah, I don't know if that'll help or if that'll make. So I just rotated the microphone away from the laptop as much as I could, and hopefully not popping my P's into the mic. OBS has a good noise filter. Just add it. All right, I'll check that out as soon as I'm done. Thanks, Diablo. I will look into that. I'm not. I got OBS working, and that's as far as I got with OBS knowledge. The fact that there's the thing down here showing the current song, that was that took me a while. All right, so what are we doing here? Since we want to display the file name in the status bar, let's add a file name string to the global editor state. Oh, okay, easy enough. So we can just add the file name to our editor here. I guess it doesn't matter where it goes. And then we have a with file. We could just pass in file name under build. And what do we put for none? I guess we can just put T, and this will just be T is a into string, And then here we just say file name. It's file name into. Right? Does that work? That does not work. You can't into the path? I can't toString this? I can't. That's unfortunate. All I wanted was a path, and you can't. If you just have a path, it doesn't have a display. Can I say that though? Is that something you can do? Clone? No, you can't clone. Clone? This is unfortunate. I was trying to be all fancy and now I can't be fancy. So even though this is a clonable toString, I can't toString it here. Or maybe toString isn't the right trait. Oh, I see. The value's moved here. Let fn string equals file name toString. And then I can say fn string here. Yeah, okay. There we go. Do I still need this clone business then? No. Okay. All right. That does the trick. And then we're going to have to pass that in when we draw the status line, right? This is just setting it to null initially. And then editor draw status bar. So we're going to get that file name. Oh, it's going to say even how many lines there are. But we're still not calling it anywhere, right? Okay, so I think draw, nope, screen. So draw status bar is going to take in file name, which is going to be a toStringable, and then the lines. View size. And so what we're going to print down here. Oh, right. So we want this whole thing to be the width. So our let status is equal to format bang. And this is going to be saying use 20 characters for the file name. 20. And then a dash, and then count lines. And this will just be the file name into. And then this has to be status. Oh. Positional arguments are 0 based. Nope, that's even worse. Invalid reference to positional argument 1. There. Okay, so I guess that's 0 then? Okay. I didn't quite follow all of that. And then we want to make sure to cut the status string short in case it doesn't fit inside the width. I think that's what that's doing. So now let's show the current line number and align it to the right edge of the screen. Oh. So this is going to be interesting because we need to This goes to the left status, and then we're going to have a right. Is format bang, and the current position of the current line number. I see. Which means we have even more information that we need to share between the editor and the status bar. I think the better thing to do here then would be to pass in the left side and right side. And then in the editor where we call draw status bar, we will do these things and pass those in. Question is how to calculate the where the right side is going to go. So the right side is going to have a certain length. Left width. So left width is the left. Do I have to say into len? And then right width? Can I do that? And then we have the full screen width, which is our self.width. Let screen width is equal to self width as usize. All right, and then we have to calculate. This one I don't care about. This is so we have len and rlen for each one. Len is the left len, right, and r is the rlen. If len is greater than screen calls, then we're going to clamp it. While len is less than eScreen calls, we're going to append eScreen calls minus len is equal to rlen. Oh, I see. So we'll just print it there. Otherwise, we're going to print spaces. Right, we have the status, left status, and the right status. So this puts the whole thing in there up to eScreen calls. Okay. So let's see if we can do this too. So we can say let status equals format bang of $0 and this will allow us to get left into followed by left width, whichever one's smaller, left width or screen width. So left width min screen width. Right, and that'll be the left hand status, and then we're going to have let r status equals just this format bang right, and then right into. So doesn't really give us much, so we don't need this bit of the code. So then we're going to set the code. Oh, we have to move to. I forgot the whole move to. Q move to, and then this is going to be 0 for the X column, and then self height -1 for the Y column, question mark. Okay, so we'll set the colors. Now we have to figure out what we're printing, and that's what we're going to do up here is generate the full line. So we're going to say, so this got truncated to whatever the width is, and we're going to say if status.len is less than screen width, then we should be able to put some of Oh, E screen minus right width. Right? If it's less than that, then we should be able to append at that location right. So we need to be able to space it over. That's what this is doing. Okay, we can do this. Let len equals status len while len is less than screen width if screen width minus len is equal to right width, then we're going to append the whole status and break. Let our status equals, then this is, oh, why is that working? Then this is just going to be equal to right dot into. Nope, that won't work. Let mut right status, our status equals string new. Right, and we can just say can you push a string onto a string? Our status push. Can I do that? Because all we're trying to do is append the string. Rust string push. Or do you have to push it a character at a time? Push stir. Okay. And then break. Else our status dot push a character. Right, and that gives us the left status and the right status, and it could, oops, it could be, the right status could just be empty. Where did we null terminate that? Here. Oh, in this printf, okay. Okay, and then this should give us both. For this format here, it can then just be status, our status. Question mark. Let's see if that works. Nope. Left with formatting specifier missing. Argument never used. Oh, 01, I see how that works. And then move to, really? Oh, does it move something else? A cursor : move to. And then right into expected stir as stir. Oh. Can I shadow it that way? And that means I can do this instead. And I did the right thing here too. So let right equals right into. Oops. And then this doesn't need this. Okay. We do have 4 more. I was expecting just 1 for draw status bar. Oh, yeah, that's right. I have this whole thing here. That doesn't need to be mutable anymore. Oh, it does need to be mutable because we need to increment it here after we push each one. Okay. And the other errors are this draw status bar is not used and file name is not used. Okay, so where do we call draw status bar? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, time. Why are we getting time? And here's the status message. Status message time. Why are we doing that? Set status message. Oh, interesting. So we have a separate status message. I'm still looking for where we're going to actually call draw status bar because we're not calling it yet. Scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. We have draw message bar. Which still doesn't call draw status message. What do we call it? Here's set. What am I missing here? Here's editor draw status bar. So let's look. Here's where we, oh. I missed this line here. In refresh screen we call draw status bar. Okay. So let's do that. So I did this, but I forgot to put it in the other spot. Editor. Refresh screen. So after refresh screen, we call draw rows, and then we call self screen. Oh, and now we have to say draw status bar with the left and the right, which is format. I guess it's just the file name. Self file name for the left side, and then format bang slash slash. Where were we? Oh, it's not just self file name. It's format bang self file name, which is :20 dash lines, and that's going to be the file name followed by self rows len, and then the right side is going to be this, which is going to be self cursor y, or x and y. Okay, I mean it built, but is that what we're passing in? No, we're passing in the number of rows. And wait, so that's on the display twice. Okay. For whatever reason. All right, so let's make this screen a little bit bigger now and see what shows up. It's not on the last row though. Oh, there we go. Okay, it's just a little odd. So now, as we go down, so this is, yeah, so this has got this 20 line business here, or 20 character business. Oop. Oh, I see what the problem is there. And the other problem is that I resized the screen and we don't handle screen resizing yet. Okay, so screen. I actually want to go to the height. Because remember, we subtracted 1 from the height already when we wrote the, when we initialized the code. There we go. So now it's showing up there, and now I should be able to scroll past it. Yeah. Okay. So that's pretty cool. We have 136 lines total. We're on line 49 of 136. All right, so let's do this time-based help thing, which is what I was getting confused by, because editor set status message. So this is just generating an extra message for status, and then where do we print it? Really? Are we doing 2 lines of status bar now? No, that doesn't make sense. Okay, let me read it. Let me read the text, actually. All right. Oh, yeah, we are going to add 1 more line below our status bar. This will be for displaying messages to the user and prompting the user for input when doing a search, for example. We'll store the current message in a string called status message, which we'll put in global editor state. We'll also store a timestamp for the message so we can erase it a few seconds after it's been displayed. All right, so that means we're going to have a duration thingy going on. We initialize status message to an empty string. So let me actually check this in. Git add source git commit -m up to step 97 status bar. Good. All right. Oh, I'm out of time. Shoot. Okay, so glad I checked my clock. So git push. I have to bail at this point, unfortunately. So yeah, we have an editor which looks pretty good. Monday is a public holiday here in the United States, so I'm probably not going to stream. We'll see. And if I do stream, it will be something not this. If I do stream, it'll probably be just playing around with something else, or maybe working on the roguelike, maybe that I want to eventually create. I need to finalize the design of it. I've been poking at the design for a roguelike, but not getting very far, unfortunately. But that's going to be my stream for today. On Tuesday, we're so close to finishing this. So close to finishing this whole section. I don't want to, I guess, all right, you know what? I'll just finish this now. We're not that far. So we'll create a status message. This is going to kill me, right? It's going to take forever. And then we have to create that here. Status message. String new. Right. That's that. And then in main, we're going to set this message. Oh, this is when we build it, right? We're going to also have to add the duration, which I don't think I have yet. Rust duration. So I'm going a little fast here. Use standard time duration, because we're going to save the duration. Status time. Zero zero, because you can do now, right? You can say, oh, I want to, yeah, I knew this was going to happen. I don't know. Because there's a Unix something. In all crates. How about now? Instant. System time. Now. There we go. Wait, this is an instant, right? We can get an instant, then on instant we can say elapsed. That's what we're looking for. Right, and that returns a duration. And then we can say if we've certain number of, okay, yeah. So we have a duration and we have instant. So what is instant? It's in standard time. So that's what we're going to do here, is make this a status time, instant now. And that'll get reset every time we set the status message, right? So this is an instant. All right, does that build? Yes, that builds. Okay, so then we're going to have a function called editor set status message. Set status message, not self, and it's going to just take the message. Again, I'm just going to do a string here. Message T. Should I do ampersand T or just regular T? I guess it doesn't matter. And what we're going to do is we're going to say set self dot timestamp, right? Is now status time instant now, and then self dot status. I forgot what I've called it. Yeah, status message. Okay. Is equal to message.into. And we should be able to do that. Nope. Why can't I do that? Status message is a string, right? Oh, is it because I did the ampersand thing here? Yeah, that was dumb. Okay. So now in main, we're going to set status message to help control Q equals quit. Actually, we don't even have to do that. We can do it right here in the constructor. Right? We don't even have to call it yet. Eventually we will, right? Other things will call it. And then we're going to move this up by a line. Screen. Oops, what did I do? Screen. So this is going to be self height -1. Right? And then we're going to print that. And then we're going to have also a status T. And this will be Q, cursor, move to, 0, self. Oh, yeah, self height +1. And we're going to keep the colors the way they are, and this will just be, oh, I can't call it status. I'll call it help. $0, just so that we make sure that it doesn't go off the screen, and this will be screen width. Nope, self width, because we want it to be the U size. I mean the U16. Help into. Oh, format takes a U size. Okay. And now this doesn't have this, so we just need to self status message. Nope. And if I ampersand this, then the into won't work, right? Oh, no, that's a separate error, right? So even if I did this here, that's not going to work. You can't call toString on that. And I can't deref it, right? Because then there's a copy. Yeah, or a move rather. Well, that's really annoying. What's the right way to approach this problem then? I guess we have to do this. Oops, the shadowing business. There we go. Still problem. Oh, because I did this. 0. And this has to be like that. Nope. I'm still going to do this. Oh, I can't, right? Because I won't be able to do the into. Yeah. Oh. String? No, yeah, I can't do that. Okay. This is killing me. But if I do string, then I can do this. That's annoying. I'm not using time yet. That's right. We need to be able to clear. Oh, right. And we need to subtract 2 now from the height. And then we need to be able to clear it. If message line and time is greater than null. Right. So this is going to be in our editor. So if self dot status message, not if it's not empty, is empty, then we're going to check the time. If self dot status time dot, and we want to get the duration elapsed, is greater than duration. And what do they have for the duration? 5 seconds. From sex 5, then self status message clear. There. And now we're just missing set status message. So we're going to comment this out for now, and you add it back in when we actually need it. So now if I run, it says help control Q to quit. And after 5 seconds, it fails to disappear. Oh, I actually had to move the key. That's bad. Let's see, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi. Nope. So it doesn't disappear on its own. You actually have to type a key for it to disappear. Mana says, instead of into string, I tend to use impl display and call to string on anything. Okay. Let me try that. Can I do that here? Or do I have to put it in the type signature? Impl display. Or do I have to put it here? Oh, and then I have to import display. Oh, okay, yeah. It's that in the generic type. Use standard format display. I don't know why I have the standard. I like keeping the standard stuff together. Okay, so that works. And if I change this to here, impl display, then how is this going to work here? Because we do need to get strings. Right? We do need these to be strings. Okay, so I'll look at that in a little bit, but the impl display is nice. Right? So that helps with that. Thank you. But we just need this to be able to be a string. And in my editor, draw status bar, I am passing a reference in there. Okay, so that works. Those first two T don't have to be the same generic. You're right. You're right. They don't. I could write U into string. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That would have caught me out in a bit. Okay, so I think we finished git add source git commit -m finished. Part 3, right? That was part 3 or part 4. Oops. like that. And we have a Clippy issue. If statement can be collapsed. Oh, right. Okay. Editor. And git push. Okay, so that is my stream. All right, so thank you for bearing with me on that. Let's see what we got. Got a whole bunch of stuff here. Awesome. And then let's take a look at, oh, it says top of page. I was looking for a next, because you have to go to the top of the page to get next. Oh, now we're going to get into insertion. Nice, where we'll actually add characters to things, which is cool. All right, thanks for hanging out with me. This was a bit of a longer stream than usual, but there you go. We're having a bit of a longer weekend, so maybe that goes with that. I hope, speaking of weekends, hope everyone has a great one, and I will see you definitely Tuesday. Hopefully Tuesday. I shouldn't say that. And I'm probably going to skip Monday, but I don't know yet. All right, that's it. And take care, everyone, and I will see you next time.